So this isn't my usual guitar. I'm gonna put this thing away, but I've got a big announcement coming about this thing on the channel real soon, so stay tuned. But hang on just a second, let me get my other guitar. Hey, John here, and this is your Tuesday Blues, where each week we catch up and I share a lesson to help you play better blues. That's what it's all about, and today we're gonna do that by tackling a question that I get a lot. Should I learn scales or chords first? Well, the answer is simple, both. All right, that's it. I'll see you next week. Just kidding. We've got a lot to unpack, but I do feel strongly that you can really learn both at the same time, and we're going to get into that through a few examples coming up in this lesson. Now, before we go any deeper, I want to say this. If you're a brand new player, I think that you should absolutely learn your basic open position chords, really memorize them, and get good at changing between them. Scales can come later. But if you've been playing for a while and you've got the basics down, you're looking to start really mastering the fretboard, then here's a way to study chords and scales at the same time. And as a matter of fact, we're gonna work on arpeggios as well. So that's three things to really get out of your practice session. Let's take a look at the C major scale. The notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we usually finish off that octave there with C. Then what you can do is take the first, third, and fifth note from that scale and you get C, we're gonna skip D and play E, we're gonna skip F and play G. C, E, G. Those are the notes of the C major chord coming from that C major scale, right? And we usually fill that chord out, especially in the open position, and play as many C's, E's, and G's as we can. And that's where this nice, comfortable C chord shape comes from. But then, what about that arpeggio? Well, the cool thing is that once you know the chord and where the first, third, and fifth note of the scale are situated on the fretboard, then you just have to pick them out. That's really the only difference between a chord and strumming it, say, and the arpeggio. It's just broken up. You're gonna pick the notes separately, right? There's a C major arpeggio. And now, just like with a chord, there are other notes that aren't just that, right? There's other C's, other E's, and other G's. Here's a C, E, and G, all right here in this little compact area of the fretboard. And then you can also go below this C, you've got an E and a G, right? I don't have anything lower, I don't have a low C on this. So now the arpeggio that we have, as much as we can here, is C, E, G, C, E, G. GE, video not sponsored by GE. So the notes of the C major arpeggio are right there. And what I recommend doing is practicing all of these things. Know that this is really interlocked and you can really get a lot of bang for your buck here and study the scale, the chord, and the arpeggio really all at the same time. It's a really efficient way to do it. And that's why I say we can really learn chords and scales first. The trick is you gotta know the scale that fits the chord or the chord that fits the scale. But we'll give you a couple of other examples because that can get pretty deep pretty quickly. We're gonna limit it to 3 here. Sticking first with this major scale equals major arpeggio equals major chord, all right? So a great way to practice this would be the C major scale followed by the chord, followed by the arpeggio. All right, now let's add another layer of harmony to our C chord. Now you remember when we went through this scale and we picked the first, third, and fifth note, stacked that, and then we've got our C major chord. Well, now we're going to go one further. We're going to pick up the 7th note from the scale, which in our case is going to be a B note. And when you do that, we'll have C, E, G, and B. And when we play those together, we've got a C major 7, owing to this major 7th. It's a 7th tone in the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, it's got a cool, smooth sound to it, and it's definitely a little more complex sounding than your basic C major chord, right? It's got something really interesting going on with that B. Same thing as before. We can practice by playing the scale, then the chord, then the arpeggio. Now the arpeggio has 4 notes in it because the chord now has 4 notes with that added layer of harmony. Pretty cool. So far, we've got ourselves a C major chord and a C major 7th, and it's coming from the C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. But what if we change the scale itself? What if we take that 7th note and flatten it like we did in Tuesday Blues number 306 to really kind of point out the bluesiness of that flat 7th interval? If we do that, we now have a different scale. We don't have the C major scale anymore. We've got different notes. We've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat. And that's the Mixolydian scale, the Mixolydian mode. We can talk about the modes later, and perhaps we should, but right now this is an important one because it's got that flat 7th interval in there. It's a scale that we use a lot in the blues. So if we pick our 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th interval from that scale, we'll have this. I'm going to move up here because I can actually kind of sort of pull off this chord in order here, but we've got a C, there's an E, there's a G, and then here is a B flat. So now, instead of a C major or C major 7, that smooth sort of sound, we put some edge on it with that flat 7th interval. You'll commonly see this played here in this position, but do know that this does not have the G in it, right? So we're missing that 5th, which is totally okay. This is still referred to as a C7, owing to that flat 7 interval that's in there. All right, so just as before, we can now play the scale, play the chord that relates to that scale, and then play through the arpeggio. Sounds pretty bluesy by comparison, doesn't it? And I know that this is a lot of information to grasp at once, but try to work on this regularly in your practice and it will have a tremendous impact on your understanding of the fretboard. And this is really the tip of the iceberg because you could really play this C major 7th, or the C7 scale chord and arpeggio set up the fretboard in different positions. And then you could also change it to a different quality, say minor or minor 7th. And you could, of course, change the key. So there's a lot that you can do with this, but I really want you to take some time, spend some time with the information in this video to help you get an understanding of how these things really are related and how they are coming from the same thing. The scale, maybe you could think of it as the scale drive in the bus, but in the end, they're really all kind of coming from the same thing: scale, chord, arpeggio. If you need a little help, check out the Diatonic Chord Builder. It's a quick worksheet that will help you visualize the relationship between scales, chords, and arpeggios. So just click on over here and pick it up, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, play on. Oh yeah, don't forget to keep tuning in to find out what's going to happen with this guitar. I'm super excited about it, so keep watching.